So we appreciate your time. We're going to start with some remarks from Chair Jessica Vega Pederson, and then we'll move on to give you a little time for questions before she has to race to the board meeting. And with that, I'll let Chair Vega Pederson begin.
Great, thank you, Julie. Good morning, everyone. I'm Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Pederson. Today, I want to share several actions that I'm taking to address the ambulance service crisis in our community. So my priority and Multnomah County's priority is that our community is safe and healthy, and that emergency services are available to everyone who needs them. You know, we're like the rest of the nation. Multnomah County is facing many overlapping challenges. We have a fentanyl emergency, homelessness, the lingering effects of the COVID pandemic, and a struggling ambulance service system. Caught in the middle of all of this are incredibly hardworking first responders. And despite all the disruption since the pandemic, our first responders and AMR paramedics have continued to deliver the highest quality care. But the only way that we are going to truly solve this crisis is by trusting medical experts and by holding AMR accountable. AMR, Multnomah County's ambulance services contractor, likes to make these problems seem simple or the solutions sound easy. They aren't, and they all have costs. AMR continues to propose changing the way we do business instead of taking the necessary steps to improve their service, asking Multnomah County residents to accept a lower level of medical care than any of our neighboring counties. AMR's plan to reduce the level of medical expertise on ambulances would give their company bigger profits, and it would shift the cost of the system to taxpayers. Right now, taxpayers don't directly pay for ambulance services. Patients and their insurers do. But taxpayers will pay if city fire departments have to respond to more calls. And if those fire departments can't go to more calls, we'll have fewer higher trained paramedics responding and will be accepting a lower level of medical care. That is why I won't be bullied into any kind of quick fix. And the truth is that AMR is failing our community. This company hasn't provided enough ambulance service for Multnomah County families for almost 2 years. And at the same time, they've expanded into Washington County, taking over all services next door, even though they can't adequately staff ambulances right here. We have been patiently working with AMR, acknowledging the unique challenges facing our county right now. We have tried to exhaust every option, but they need to do their part. AMR must immediately assign more paramedics to work in Multnomah County and provide incentives to hire and keep people working in Multnomah County. They need to subcontract with other agencies to shore up their staffing and provide full service for all emergencies with the level of care our community expects. And they must adequately staff existing programs. AMR has consistently failed to fully staff basic life support ambulances to relieve the system pressure. That is part of the pilot that we have with them. There are a few other things I want to make sure that you know today. First, Multnomah County has asked AMR to work with us for months, and now we're moving to formal mediation. In the meantime, AMR has racked up at least $1.6 million more in additional penalties for a total of over $2 million since August. We will move to collect those fines next month if they don't show us a clear plan of action for subcontracting, staff recruitment and retention, and fully staffing existing EMT pilots that they have already agreed to. Second, I'm asking the Board of Multnomah County Commissioners to immediately reopen the ambulance service plan, 2 years ahead of schedule, to fully assess ambulance staffing, response time, and other major elements of county emergency medical response. Any changes we make to our system have to be informed by a thorough process to avoid unintended consequences that could impact patients and our first responders. This is both a statutory requirement for counties and the responsible way to decide significant policy changes. For Multnomah County, this is about maintaining some of the best survival rates and outcomes in the country and continuing to focus on patient safety today and in the future. I will also be convening experts from the county and the Oregon Health Authority within the next 30 days to advise and consult on our ambulance service plan review. And I'm asking the cities of Portland and Gresham to review their fire department services to either demonstrate that they have the necessary capacity or determine how they change their systems and at what cost to respond to more calls. In Multnomah County, because of the growing 911 call volume, fire agencies in 2023 were able to respond to only 75% of 911 medical calls that were ultimately found to be life-threatening. Responding to all emergencies is not currently feasible for our fire agency partners. That means the alternative is a lower standard of care for our Multnomah County neighbors. If staffing changes are going to come at a cost to the public, that should be transparent, and our community must know and understand the implications. I want to be clear, AMR's conduct in this crisis is irresponsible and unacceptable. They're allowing a crisis in our community to worsen so they can make more money instead of recruiting, hiring, and retaining enough first responders on staff to provide the services that they've agreed to. Their disinvestment in the services in Multnomah County have made a challenging situation so much worse. I believe that AMR can take these action steps to improve their service. AMR refuses to do simple things that would help. Instead, they're choosing to ignore collaborative solutions while they lobby local elected officials for what they want. Our families and neighbors accept that when they call for help, it will come. I expect AMR to come to the table with us, meet the terms of their contract, and join us in collaborative problem solving that focuses on the urgent ambulance crisis across Multnomah County, instead of asking our residents to accept a lower level of care and taxpayers to share an additional burden of their refusal to commit to real solutions. I think we have time for a few questions, so I'm happy to answer some questions that you have.
Chair, before folks begin, I'm going to ask everyone to put their name in the chat and we can call on them so it's somewhat orderly. I want to remind everybody that if they look at their email, they've just gotten a press release that details a bit of what the chair has laid out. We will have a recording of this on the Multco Communications YouTube channel. And Sarah Dean and myself are both available to follow up with any questions. So we're going to start with Elise Haas from COIN. Elise, please go ahead.
All right, I had to unmute myself. So, Chair, what do you make of the city of Gresham and also Portland calling for this temporary change for half of the staff to go to 1-1? You say you're taking action right now, but you just said we're going to wait 30 days to convene people, take a look at the whole plan when ambulances aren't getting to people's emergencies right now.
So we're not going to wait 30 days. We are going to be convening the group and getting response within 30 days. So I want to be clear on that, first of all. And in terms of Portland City Council and Gresham City Council's resolutions, I think we all share this sense of urgency about this situation. But I have significant concerns about the suggestion to use executive or political power to override clinical expertise and the decision-making authority of our emergency medical systems medical director or emergency medical systems medical director. For an elected official to do that wouldn't be responsible or ethical. I want to engage with them. I prefer to have discussions and collaborate with them on these solutions. And myself and my team have reached out to both cities to understand what their intentions are with these resolutions and identify ways that we can work together to hold AMR accountable to their contract, because that's ultimately what this is about.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Elise. Next is Dawn McIntosh from Northwest Labor Press.
Hi there, thank you. Jerry, you mentioned the possibility of them subcontracting with other agencies to shore up staffing. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so that is something that's allowable under our ambulance service plan and contract, is the ability to subcontract with another provider to provide some temporary assistance or additional resources, additional staffing for them to cover what's needed for Multnomah County. It's something that I know Clackamas County has asked them to do, and I've made the same request to them here in Multnomah County.
So would the subcontract be with like public fire services or other ambulance companies or what?
The answer is yes. I mean, the
Okay.
answer is they would have the ability to do that, and they can be talking with other fire departments. They can be talking to Metro West, right? There's like different things that are allowable and potential options there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. I'm going to go to Joe English from K2.
Yes, Chair. Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm not sure my picture's up there. Are we good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. You had mentioned reopening the ambulance service plan 2 years ahead of schedule. Processes like the one we're talking about now have gone on for months and really hit a wall. What are we to believe in that you can expedite another move, make it happen much sooner than expected when everything else seems to take so darn long?
Yeah, as I said before, we've been patient. We've been trying to work with AMR in finding solutions where they are fulfilling their obligations within our contract, but also improving the services and finding solutions of getting people on board. That has not been successful. As they continue to push for a change of staffing model as the only solution they're willing to really invest in, to move into that without a thorough understanding of the implications, both for the level of medical care and emergency response that our public would be getting, and the potential impacts on our local fire departments and fire response systems, we have to have the process. So we're starting this review of our ambulance service plan, which is a significant step towards evaluating our EMS systems in a thorough and transparent process that doesn't give preference to the loudest voices in the room.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Evan Watson from KGW, who's done a few stories on this.
Hi, Chair. Thanks for your time. I've got a couple quick fire, if I can, for you. You mentioned in reasoning about taxpayers taking the burden because of fire responding. I'm curious, why would fire departments respond to more calls, being that Portland Fire and Rescue Chief and leaders have said they already respond to all critical calls, and then with triage and changes, you could manage that there, if you could explain.
Yeah, so Portland Fire does respond to all identified ALS calls that come through 911 so they're responding to all the calls they need to respond to. The issue is with an increased volume of call and the triage that is happening at the 911 level, 25% of the calls that actually require life-saving responses are not getting met with fire response because they aren't identified up front, which means having that two paramedic model of AMR's ambulances showing up with people who are able to respond to that section of calls is really imperative. And I want to stress that when people talk about Multnomah County's systems being different than Clackamas and Washington County, it's not just that we have a two paramedic model and they have a one EMT and one paramedic model. The difference is also that their fire departments and their fire services actually respond to all of the 911 calls where we have a different system. And we have that different system so that they don't have to take on that additional burden and work because we have the two paramedic model.
Okay, great. And then you mentioned $1.6 million in additional fines. What months are those associated with, being that the $500,000 was in relation to August a few months back?
Yeah, so that would be since August. And we can get those exact months for you because I want to make sure that, but it's September through now.
Okay. And then on subcontract, which was just brought up, AMR says they're interested in that. For example, partnering with Metro West. Metro West said they do it. You said that you'd like that happening. The difference was AMR reads the contract as saying that they believe they can only subcontract with fire. And you said that's not how you read the contract and that they're able to pursue other things. Have you all talked that out since we talked about that a month ago, or where's that stand?
Yeah, we've had many conversations with them about that, and really our EMS teams are really engaged in those detailed conversations. But they have the flexibility subcontract, and that's one of the things that I'm asking them to do.
Thanks, Evan.
Okay.
We're going to give a chance if we can. Amelia Templeton from OPB is up next, and then we'll have a couple more. Looks like we have time for Annette and Michaela, and then we'll probably be wrapping up. So Amelia, please go ahead.
Yeah, two questions. First, you say that Portland Fire and Rescue isn't responding to 25% of calls that require an elevated response. or a more serious response. How are you defining that? Because, well, yeah, first tell me specifically, what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, so it has to do with the calls that are triaged, you know, to be an ALS, an advanced life support call, or a BLS call, right?
What level of call are you talking about? ALS calls includes a lot of things that don't need two paramedics, right? So what level are you talking about? Like Echo, Bravo, Delta? Like, give me the specifics. What specifically is happening 25% of the time?
So 25% of the time, and this is the data that we get post triage, right? This is as our teams are looking at the data that happens as they're analyzing the calls that happened and the response that went to the calls. So post, right, like post event, we are seeing that 25% of the time, calls that required the level of care of two paramedics are happening without fire being deployed to those calls. So that's,
so
I can get
AMR and I, yeah, please get me the more detailed breakdown of what that means, because AMR and I we looked in detail at the data specifically for cardiac arrest calls. And they found that in all but a single case when Portland Fire and Rescue did not respond to a cardiac arrest call, it was because the patient had a DNR or was in a medical facility.
Amelia,
Therefore,
we will
two paramedics weren't required. So I'm curious if you can just be more specific and detailed about when you think there's an actual need for a fire truck and fire truck's not getting there, because AMR says that's not happening. And it sounds like Portland Fire and Rescue also says that's not happening.
Okay,
Yeah.
Amelia, we will get, oh, sorry, Chair.
No, I just will say, I mean, I think you cardiac types are one where they may be responding, and that's great. That's fantastic. There are other calls, other types of calls that they are not being deployed to, and we'll get that information to you.
Okay, but you don't have an example right now of what you think is getting missed by Portland Fire and Rescue.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather give you the data and have that. I will say that if in the conversations that I've had with our team, something that is triaged as like a stomach problem or a type of call that doesn't raise to the level, right, of an ALS call, but when the paramedics show up there and it actually is a different medical issue, that is the nexus, and that is the place where that 25% shows up.
Okay,
So
I have one final question. Have you asked for a second medical opinion? Have you sought advice about this outside of your team, your medical director and the team at Multnomah County? So
the medical director that we have here and the medical personnel that we have at Multnomah County, their job is to set up a system that is in the best public interest of having the highest level of medical care in our ambulance response system. That is the basis of the ambulance service plan, which has then been approved by the state and which we've been working under. What I'm doing in the next 30 days is convening our county folks and the state and OHA folks to have that conversation about,
sure, but we're many months into this whole crisis, and I guess I'm wondering, have you sought outside counsel on this, or are you relying on the clinical judgment of your medical director and your county staff?
So our medical director and county staff are in frequent conversation with staff, and they have had conversations about what the state would allow in the ambulance service plan and in the potential staffing model. So they have had those conversations about what the state would allow and not allow and what's the things. And so we're going to be continuing those conversations. Specifically, we would be calling for this convening.
Amelia, I'm going to have to ask, we have two more folks that we'd like to get to, and Sarah and I will definitely get back to you. So just shoot us a quick email at pressoffice@multco.us and we can follow up. I want to give Annette Newell from KXL a quick chance to ask about, Annette, are you on? Oh, there's a glitch in her system. She's asking, Chair, what's your response to AMR saying the ambulance delays are due to a nationwide paramedic shortage?
Yeah, there is a nationwide paramedic shortage. That is something that I think we all agree on. It is something that is impacting us at Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Washington County, and as you said, across the nation. So that is true. But the fact of the matter is they are responsible for fully staffing Multnomah County in the way that they have contracted to do with us. They have not been putting the incentives in place to bring people in or to retain people to work here in Multnomah County. At the same time, they are expanding their service into Washington County, which is potentially drawing people away from the work here in Multnomah County. The work is hard. Our first responders are amazing in the work that they do every single day. And I need AMR to be a partner in the work that's needed to make sure that we have the staffing that we need here for our paramedics.
Thanks, Chair. One final question. There's Michaela Cotter. Are you on, or would you like to, we can just ask your
Can
question?
you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, it works. Yeah, so I just wanted to find out where these fines, if we're getting up to $2 million, where are the fines going to?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there are specific areas where the fines need to be applied. They have to go back into the system itself, right? So they can't just be spent on anything at all. They have to be going back into system. And we have within the contract and within the, the protocols, we can respond and invest in some of our fire department partners. We can respond in, we can look at staffing and workforce issues. We can look at really improvements to the system itself. So that's what those fines would be dedicated for.
And have you made a decision on to where those are possibilities, but where you think you might put it?
Yeah, I know our teams have been in conversations. I think we've had requests from local fire departments about things that they would like to have the fines applied to. But really, before we get to that point, I'm really stressing that, we're moving into formal mediation with AMR. I want them to understand that we will move forward with the $1.6 million in fines if they don't provide the clear plan for subcontracting for staff recruitment and retention and staffing the existing EMT pilot programs that we have in the next 30 days. So really, I'm hopeful that they are willing to step up to do the hard work within the next 30 days to put together a plan that actually meets the requirements of the contract that they have with us to provide a solution.
So everybody, thanks for all your questions. We're out of time. The chair is literally due downstairs in 5 minutes to gavel a meeting. So thanks. And if you have any questions, please follow up. Otherwise, have a great day.